Hi, I'm Father Jim Forson, and I'd like to share with you a few reflections on the Gospel on the 14th Sunday in Ordinary Time. You know, both my sisters are great mathematicians. All their life they excelled in math, as did my dad. And my mom was a school teacher for 28 years. She was great in math. Everybody in the family was good in math, except me. I was awful in mathematics. I still am. I still count on my fingers. If you ask me, what's 9 and 7? 10, 12, 13, 14, 16. That's what I still do to this day. And subtraction, the same. Division, forget fractions. Except multiplication. That's the one thing I am good at. I'm really fast at multiplication. And the reason is because when I was in 4th grade, I had this teacher named Mrs. Nash. And Mrs. Nash made mathematics fun. And she taught us how to multiply like that. We used to have these flashcards in class. I don't even know if they still have those things anymore. But it was so much fun with the flashcards. And she had this game called Mathematics Baseball, where she would throw out, 9 times 12. And whoever answered first, either the batter or the catcher, either went to the base if it was the batter, or the catcher would get them out. We had so much fun doing that. And so, with all my weaknesses in mathematics, the one thing that I'm really good at is multiplication. And it's all because of Mrs. Nash. What a great teacher she was. And she must be with the Lord by this time, but I'd give anything to be able to see Mrs. Nash again and say, thank you. I hope all of us have had that experience of having had a great teacher in our life who has been able just to help us not necessarily make everything easier, but to make it more engaging, more appealing, to show us how to go through this. This is what Jesus is saying to us in today's gospel. He's inviting us to let him be our teacher. And what does he say to us in the gospel? He says, "Come to me, all you who labor and are burdened, and I will give you rest." He invites us to be with him. And no matter how optimistic I can be, there are some times where I know I can, and maybe we all do, find ourselves weary, world weary. There's been more than 260 mass killings in the United States up to this point in time. 260, that overwhelms my heart. It makes me world weary. And I was reading how in Sudan, because of that civil war, 1.4 million people are homeless. Weary. And here in LA, the homeless problem, you drive into the streets and these huge encampments and nothing seems to get done and it doesn't seem to be getting better, and I can find myself world weary. So hearing Jesus say, "Come to me, all you who are labored, are burdened, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest. I will refresh you." Boy, that sounds so appealing. But then he says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me." And wait a minute. Do you know what a yoke is? Saying this to someone who's coming to him because they're weary, and the yoke is now going to be placed upon their shoulders. A yoke, as we may know, was a large wooden device, piece of hardware put over the shoulders, usually of 2 oxen, connecting them to each other, which then they would pull this heavy plow through the fields and prepare it for farming. And a lot of those people in those days, they couldn't afford an ox. So they would put the yoke on their own shoulders, and they would pull that heavy plow through the ground. So when Jesus says, "Take my yoke upon your shoulders," that doesn't sound like something you want to say to somebody who's world weary. I respond to that invitation by saying, wait a minute, what's the yoke of Jesus Christ that is going to be placed on my shoulders? So what is that yoke of Jesus Christ? Where he invites us to literally bind myself under this yoke to Jesus, who is also pulling this plow in this yoke with me? Well, this is what the yoke of Jesus Christ is. Jesus is the teacher who, because I am now yoked to him, is going to teach me how to forgive. And not to forgive the way the world forgives. I forgive, but I don't forget. No, he's going to teach me how to forgive the way God forgives. The yoke of Jesus Christ is the yoke that's going to teach me compassion. Because we do live in a world that can sometimes be so cruel. And the response to cruelty can sometimes be cruelty. This is not the yoke of Jesus. He's going to teach overwhelming compassion, overwhelming understanding. That's the yoke of Jesus Christ. Tell me something. If you were a parent, wouldn't you love to hear someone say about your child, God, you got a great kid. His heart is so good. He is so tender, and he's so kind to others, and he's so giving. Wouldn't you love to hear that said about your child? Or would you prefer to have someone say about your child, man, that kid of yours is whip smart, you know. He's clever. When he gets older, turn him loose on the stock market, he's going to make a fortune. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not evil or anything. But tell me, which would you prefer hearing? About your child's heart or about how clever they are? There's a yoke of Jesus Christ, or there's that yoke that the world puts on our shoulders. One way or the other, we're going to be pulling a plow. One way or the other, we're going to have a yoke on our shoulders. The question is, whose yoke? And what is it that I'm doing that's being demanded of me? The world will place a yoke on our shoulders where it's saying to us, excel, get ahead, compete, be better. And again, that's not evil at all. It's not. But it can wear us out. And that kind of a yoke can break our backs. As opposed to the yoke of Jesus Christ, who is saying, walk with me, and I will walk with you, and I will help you carry this burden that you do through life. And I will teach you how to have a heart like God. And when we have that kind of yoke on our shoulders, it displaces, it gets rid of, it frees us from all the other yokes of this world that can wear us out. And so today, Jesus, the good teacher, invites us to let him teach us how to live life. He invites us to yoke ourselves to him. You know, one teacher in my life, Mrs. Nash, made all the difference in the world. One teacher, like Jesus Christ, can transform our lives. And he calls us today, follow me. And may our response today be, I am on my way.